Bob here for the Old Iron Lever channel, and this is the odds and ends video number 4. This is kind of laid out like a Saturday afternoon matinee when we were kids. The first things on would be a couple of short subjects like a cartoon or something, and then we got to the feature presentation. So the short subjects here are a little video clip on my Wi-Fi thermostat for the shop, and the other one is a Carbide storage upgrade, I guess you'd say. And then the feature presentation will be a snow plow. It's basically a garden tractor with a snow plow in the front of it. Had to do a lot of little things to it to get it running right, and then we get to see fun in the snow with it when they get it all done. So let's get on with it. Now this first short subject is kind of showing off just a quick view, I guess you'd say, of the Cyberstat Wi-Fi thermostat in the shop. This is an addition I made to the shop some time ago, but I've never filmed it. It's a Wi-Fi thermostat, and once you get it set up, it talks to the internet via your Wi-Fi, assuming your Wi-Fi is strong enough to reach out to the shop. Anyway, from a computer or my phone or whatever, I can warm the shop up, or if I forget to turn the heat down before I go back into the house, I can just run over the computer and shut it down. So anyway, just thought you might like to see that. This next short subject is a quick view of some storage I put together for my Carbide mills. It occurred to me the other day as I was looking for a Carbide mill that I had my Carbide stuff scattered all over the place. So, as I've done before with other collections of tools like the taps and dies and things, I found a box about the right size, and I organized them with 3D printed stuff, like so. So now I can go all the way from a 1/16 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, and everything is all nice and sorted and organized. So I use the 3D printer for that kind of stuff quite a bit. So anyway, just a quick note, I guess you'd say. Our feature presentation will be on a lawn tractor I bought with a snowplow in the front of it. It's a Sears Craftsman Suburban 11-horse lawn tractor, and we're going to talk about all the things it took to get it running, and have a look at the thing in operation. Okay, I'm going to take you through some of the repairs I did to this after I got it. One is it needed a new air cleaner, and I thought because it was all wrapped up in duct tape that the housing was broken, but it was fine. I just had to take that tape off. This valve was leaking, the O-ring in it was gone, and the hose was hard, so I had to take all this shroud and everything off to get the hose out, put a new hose in, put an inline filter in it, and on the carburetor, right here, this flange, right in here, was warped out probably close to 1/8 of an inch. And the only way I can see where that would be a consequence of over tightening it is if you had a big squishy rubber washer behind it, and between the flange and the engine. Otherwise, I think somebody pushed down on it or pulled on it or something and actually bent it. And I had the carburetor off and put a new kit in it, and put it in the arbor press and got it, pushed back pretty much into shape, and then I lapped it on my surface plate with a piece of sandpaper and got it working. And then right down here is a pulse powered fuel pump. It was completely missing. So I fixed that, and see if you can see it from here. Right here, and I don't know if you can see it or not, but right where I'm pointing here, that's a breather, and on these old engines, the breather is actually a check valve, and when the piston is coming down, it creates higher pressure in the crankcase, and the valve opens to let the pressure out. And then when the piston comes back up, the valve slaps shut, and the piston moving up pulls a little vacuum. And the nice thing about that is, or the reason you want to make sure the check valve inside is good, and I did replace the little breather assembly that had the check valve in it, is that if you don't, you're going to get oil leaking out around the seals. With the always negative pressure in the crankcase, then it's basically going to pull air in from the outside rather than push air and oil out from the inside. Okay, now when you're rebuilding a carburetor, having done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of carburetors, the first inclination is to buy a carburetor kit, take it all apart, clean it, blow it air through it, put the kit in it, and put it back together. Well, that's not really a carburetor rebuild. That's a regasketing job. On this particular one, I mentioned that this flange was warped out 1/8 of an inch and had to be flattened back up. Right here, you see little bushings sticking out. That's actually a 22 shell with the primer end cut off of it. And what that is there was a lot of play in the throttle shaft, between the throttle shaft and this bore here. And that will cause air to leak past it, and when that happens, it won't idle right. And so I cut a 22 shell just the right length, pressed it into the casting here, and then reamed it slightly with, actually used a drill bit to ream it, until the throttle shaft moved freely in there, and it works perfectly. Okay, what else was missing? Inside of here, the main jet has this screw on the bottom is the adjusting for your high-speed mixture. That was not working right at all, and the main jet was loose in there, and all the gaskets were missing in between. So took it all apart, of course put all new gaskets in. There was a new seal for this drain valve here, and the way they built this carburetor, the main valve, the main metering valve in the middle of the carburetor was, when they installed it, they screwed in, and then they would, through accessing through a hole in the casting, they would drill an 80 thousandths hole into the center of that brass metering valve, and then they would seal up the hole where you put the where they put the drill through to get to that metering valve. Well, first of all, it was loose, and when you take it out and you read about it, you find out that you can't do that. You can't take them out, because if you screw them back in, the odds of you getting that little 80 thousandths hole lined up exactly with the 80 thousandths hole in the carburetor body is pretty close to zero. So what we do then is you can buy a replacement valve, needle seat valve, what do you want to call it. Anyway, it has where the threads are, and that hole comes in through the threads into the middle of the brass. Right where the hole is, they turned a ring or a groove around the outside of it past the threads, so that wherever the fuel goes on the outside through the casting, it's going to find its way around that groove and into that 80 thousandths hole, wherever the 80 thousandths hole is pointed. So what else? The idle adjustment needle valve was completely missing. Unfortunately, the kit came with one of those. I'm not sure if that's something new. You know, like it always does that. I mentioned I had to take this housing off to get to the fuel hose that was inside of it. And while I had it apart, I did a couple of things. Both the captive nuts in here were wallowed out, so I brazed them up and tapped them for these new bolts. Also in there, and I can't begin to show it to you, there's the way this ignition system works is it's a magneto ignition, sort of. It's a coil-driven ignition with a set of points and a coil and spark plug wire and all that. But the primary current provided to it is via a little magneto inside here. So the primary current is on the magneto. And the way you kill any magneto is you ground out the coil, the spark coil, or in this case the magneto coil, the low voltage coil. There was no wire leading from it, so I had to very carefully down inside there, with very little room to work with, I had to splice in another ground wire and run it over the ignition switch. And the ignition switch in the off position actually does ground that wire, so it works perfectly. This little tractor has headlights and a tail light, and in their zeal to paint the tractor blue so it looked brand new, they painted the tail light lens. Luckily, it was pretty crappy paint and it was fairly easily cleaned up with a little bit of a brake cleaner. So I got that cleaned up and the light in it worked fine. And then, like I say, I had to put a new headlight in it. Okay, on the dash, had to replace the light switch. It was broken. There was no ignition switch to it. They had an old foot-style starter switch put in there and hooked in. All the rest of the electrics were completely disconnected. So I got the wiring diagram and then I reloaded everything, you know, back the way it should be. And when it got all done, it ran and the lights worked, but it didn't charge. And I got looking, looked like the voltage regulator in there was trashed and is all rusty and everything. So I put a new voltage regulator in it, and that fixed it, worked fine. The battery that's in it is not the right one, but it seems to work. Other than I don't think it turns the engine over fast enough to get it to start. So I just hit it with a little starting fluid, and it'll light right up. The muffler, the top of the muffler was all chewed out, rusted out. So I cut a new plate for the top of it, just brazed around the seam here and brazed it in. Kind of helped a little bit. The bottom's kind of raunched out too, but that's after all the noise-making baffles and things in there, noise prevention baffles are taken care of. The dipstick, the top of the dipstick tube was broken. The dipstick itself, the knob, was broken, and it looked like it might leak water, contaminants, or thing down into the oil. So I thought I'd just replace it. It was not expensive. So the gas tank, I had to put a new gas tank in it, and the one that actually fits it, I could not find hide nor hair of that. I could find a part number and nothing was out available. This one was the right size and the holes were not quite in the right place. The outlet is right underneath the fill on this one, and the right one is back here, so I had to put a new hole in this bracket here. And this is not quite as nice a gas cap as what came with it originally. The snow blade on it works real well, and it appears to be very new. I don't know if it's brand new, but it's got very little wear, if any, on it. It's a manual sort of thing where that big handle on the side there raises and lowers it and tilts it right and left. Just before I bought this, actually when I was in the process of buying this, I tripped over a curb in the snow and landed on my left wrist and banged it up, and so it's been weak for the last month or so. It should heal up in another month or two, but it's kind of hard to run it with a wounded wing there. The other thing that worked out pretty well for me, going to get a set of tire chains for it, just about all these tractors like this, lawn tractors, need a set of chains for pushing snow. I found a set on Craigslist. The guy just had it in his garage, wanted to get rid of it for 15 bucks. Oh, okay, for a $60 set of chains, I'll take it. I think that's about all I can show you on it. So it had a lot of little repairs needed, nothing really major. It smokes a little when it starts up, but once it warms up, it stops smoking. I really don't care. It works fine, and surely not going to tear into the engine and, you know, do a valve job or anything like that on it just for that. So anyway, that's it. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you like the channel, how about subscribing? I'd love to have more subscribers. And if you have something to say you think I'd like to hear, well, put it in the comments section. And thanks for watching, and until the next video, happy trails.